It's a rare occurrence, but when you're wrong, you're wrong. And I'm man enough to admit I was wrong. I'm going to set the record straight 100% right now that we have all of the receipts and all the information. I came up with the analogy that, based off of the information that I had at the time, it made a lot of sense. But now that I have more information, I can see where my analogy was wrong. The analogy was, to refresh your memory, a person goes into the library, rents out a book, reads the book, sets it down for a tiny bit, steps away. Then someone else, seeing the book unattended, takes that book and then turns it in and then rents it out to themselves. And so then, of course, both people are unaware that the other person had possession. And person one says, "Hey, that's my book and I have receipts." And person two says, "No, it's on my account." It was based off of several cues that I had within the video. And that analogy actually is not consistent with this thing, because that analogy assumes that both people are completely ignorant about what exactly is occurring. And so both people are acting in good faith and have a reasonable belief that they have ownership of the property. In this scenario, it's not that at all. One of the parties was completely aware of what was going on. And it turns out this psycho, Karen, sociopath knew that that bike shouldn't have been hers. So let's go through the receipts now that the boy has spoken out with his mother to an actual news team. Turns out that that boy had that bike since 553. And notice that I'm saying that boy, and it's something that the media does on a regular basis. When it's a young black teen, if they're 18 or 19 years old, it'll say young black man. When it's a white person and they're 18 or 19, it'll say young black teen, because it's ambiguous and you can assume they're as young as 13. When it's 17 or 18, it's man, which we can assume is as old as 25. The media has always done things in this way. Anything that involves a young white person in a bad light, they'll say teen if they're at the maximum of 19 years old. When it's a black teenager, 19 years old, you're a man. Black children are tried as adults significantly more frequently than their white counterparts. I previously mentioned the boy's name, but they don't want his name to be mentioned. So they are using an alias, which is Michael, and that's what I will call him from now on. Michael had that bike from 5:53 p.m. that day. It turns out that he uses City Bike all of the time. He uses it to get to school. He's part of a community called City Bike Angels, which gives out free rides and other prizes and incentives for people who rack up a certain amount of usages of those bikes. He has a membership and has been part of a program for low-income people that allows his bike rides to be cheaper than everyone else's. However, the rides need to be limited to 45 minutes or else you get charged for any time that goes over that. So it turns out that he has a habit: getting the bikes, riding it for 45 minutes or less, turning it back in, and then at that point, rechecking out the bike. Now, people were asking questions. Why would they be fighting over this bike when there were other bikes present? The reason was because there are specific e-bikes that are new that are better than some of the previous bikes. That e-bike is particularly coveted, such that Michael and his friends walked around New York looking for the bike for 20 minutes before finding it and beginning their first trip. He had traveled very far. He was from a different borough and he had traveled very far on that bike. They had been using that bike for about an hour and a half before actually coming in contact with City Bike Karen, the sociopath. So let's get to what his version of the story is. He had rented the bike multiple times that day before encountering her, and he had docked the bike and was standing next to the bike, intending to continue to use it. Still had his hands on the handlebars. And City Bike Karen, aka Rachel Comrie, steps over to him and asks, can she use the bike? He says, "No, you cannot use the bike. I'm still using it." And she was like, "Please, can I, I just got out, can I please use it?" And he says, "No, I'm still checking this bike out." She asks one of his friends. He also says no. She tells him, "Hey, I'm pregnant. Can you help a pregnant lady out?" To which he says, "I'm sorry. I drove this all the way from the Bronx and I needed to get home." She then scans the QR code of the bike that he's physically holding in his hands to start her ride. That's when the video starts recording. So the thing that I was wrong about was, one, I was wrong to assume that the bike had been his the entire time as he had been when the video started. The bike was redocked during a time when the video was recorded. Someone pointed that out in the comments, and you were correct. The bike was redocked. And then he used his phone to start another reservation for the bike under his own name. She saw him doing this and grabbed his phone from him. She screamed for help as if she had been in danger and lied and said that these men had approached her after she was already on the bike as if they and were nowhere to be seen, even though they had been using the exact same bikes all of this time and had stuck together and stuck by the docking station as they had done for several other rounds. So if you look at the receipts for the bike, her receipt starts from 7:24 to 7:25, and his receipt starts from 7:25 to 7:31, and then he has another ride, a final ride, from 7:59 to 8:41, all on the same bike. So he had that bike for about 3 hours and 8 minutes, all with 45-minute intervals or less. Because with that, if you don't want to be charged money, he's allowed free rides. He uses a bike to get to school, and etc. The reason why I came up with the logic that I did for this is because I assumed that neither party was an evil, conniving person willing to lie as ridiculously as City Bike Karen did. Now that I know that she's a liar, it makes sense why some of the things that I said didn't hold up. Turns out she did try to take these bikes from these young teenagers. So after lying about it, it turns out that the lawyer that they were talking about is not a lawyer that she hired. It was a lawyer specifically that's appointed from her union in order to help her keep her job. He provided the receipts that were so redacted that no one had any information. He later on sent out a tweet after the boy starts releasing his information showing that he also had the bike. Then he finally says, and I quote, "We previously redacted the first receipt to protect Miss Comrie's safety by withholding the time and location. Given this information appears to be public, we hereby enclose the unredacted first receipt. No further comments, responses will be made." And of course he wouldn't give any further comment. And of course it made sense now why City Bike Karen, Rachel Comrie, decided, hey, I don't want to press charges. And she said that she didn't want to pursue it any further. And the reason was because she knew that that boy had access to that bike. It's a young man, a young boy that had that bike in his hand. And during that time, she went and scanned the QR code. He had been using the same bike for several trips before then. It's like, imagine I go to the library and I'm about to check in a book, but I still have my hand on the book as I scan it to be checked in because I intend to go right to the librarian and recheck it out. And someone goes and scans the book while it's in my hand and says, nope, it's mine now. It'd be absurd. But privilege will always find a way. People kept comparing this to the Amy Cooper situation. And this is why it made people so alarmed to begin with. Amy Cooper was the Central Park Karen who believed that she could have her dog in the ramble without any kind of leash or anything like that, scaring away the birds and disturbing local bird watchers. One such bird watcher was Christian Cooper, no relation. He tells her to put her dog on a leash. She says no. He says you can take the dog over there where it's perfectly fine. It's legally supposed to be on a leash. She still says no. So then he says, well, okay. She says no, he needs his exercise. He says, okay, well, if you want to do what you're going to do, I'm going to do what I want to do. You're not going to like what I want to do. She says, what's that? He starts saying, come here, boy. Woman says, he's not going to come to you. He says, we'll see about that, and pulls out his dog treats. Now he's a bird watcher. He shouldn't have dog treats because he's not out walking dogs. His reason for carrying the dog treats is because some people are so stubborn and ridiculous that they will allow their dogs into this bird watching area to scare away the birds. And when you ask them about putting their dog on a leash, they just say, well, no, I'm not doing it. And you can't do anything about it. You think the police are going to come out every 5 minutes when someone won't have their dog on a leash? Like, oh, okay. Well, I know how to make you put your dog on a leash. I'm going to offer your dog a treat. Now, any person obviously feels like, one, I don't want my dog getting used to strangers giving them treats and expecting treats from strangers. So that's already like a big turnoff. Two, I don't know you. I don't know if this treat has poison. I don't know that it could be something that the dog could be allergic to. I have no idea what's in this treat. I do not trust the idea of giving this treat to from a random stranger to my dog. I might never see you again and you just poisoned my dog. I have no idea. So for those reasons, people are incredibly reluctant to have some random stranger feeding their dog. What better way? And of course, everyone knows that treats are some of the most motivating things when it comes to dogs. So you can tell your dog no, but if I toss that treat in front of him, that dog is running to that treat. He's gonna grab that treat and put it in his mouth and then come back to you. So what says put your dog on a leash like some random stranger giving your dog treats? Now you might say, that's crazy. Why would you do that? Because your dog shouldn't be off the leash inside of the ramble where I'm going to go bird watch and do what I do in an area that's dedicated to this particular reason, and you refuse to abide by the law, and I know that the law isn't going to show up in time to actually correct your behavior. Don't worry, I'll be the petty nigga. I'll do it. And that's exactly what the freak he did. Now, people started lying, such as Destiny, saying, oh, well, he threatened the woman. He said he was going to abduct the dog. No, he didn't. He offered the dog a treat. Destiny also made the stupid statement. No one was reporting about what he did. No one said that. It was like, yeah, he put it in his original Facebook post. That was never included in the story. No one in the media talks about it. Listen to him.
Because the video for the white woman looks insane. She's just like screaming and trying to call the cops, and everybody's like, oh, white woman trying to call the cops on a black dude. But the guy posted this on his Facebook before he posted the video, but none of this ever got reported on. None of this got reported on. It was insane.
That's interesting. Because the very first post where this story went viral was on May 25th. Yes, when NPR interviewed the man and posted why he did the treats. May 26th. Here it is, right here. It was all over the news. Everyone knew this. But instead, let's justify a woman weaponizing the man's race in order to lie. Listen to her as she threatens him and tells him she's going to call the police.
Cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Notice that detail she included? When confronted with this information, once again, Destiny tries to dismiss it. Oh no, she's just trying to describe him. To himself? She would say, I'm going to call the police on you. I'm going to call the police and tell them that you're trying to attack my dog. She doesn't say that. She says, I'm going to call the police and tell them an African-American man is threatening my life. She knew that his race would be an essential component such that it would actually motivate the police. She was threatening him with his race and then proceeded to make that call.
I'm sorry, I'm in the ramble, and there is a man, African-American, he has a bicycle helmet. He is recording me and threatening me and my dog. There is an African-American man, I am in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog.
Notice how she adds on the fake distress when she's talking to the police. And when the police aren't responding the way she wants them to, she then ups the ante even more.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you either. I'm being threatened by a man in the ramble. Please send the cops immediately. I'm in Central Park in the ramble. I don't know.
The same way how this woman lied. Rachel Connery, City Bike Karen, lied and said, you're hurting my fetus.
Do not touch the fetus. I'm not touching you.
You're hurting my unborn child. Screamed for help at the top of her lungs. She knew what she was doing. She knew the risk she was putting that young boy in. Kid hasn't even graduated high school. Evil. So for every person who was in my comments explaining to me how she had a receipt, this kid has 5 with the same bike. Do you think it's realistic that a kid who walked around 20 minutes looking for the bike and then kept that bike for over 3 hours was probably standing next to the bike, waiting to recharge it again, taking a small break? Yeah, I think he's telling the truth. That's why she doesn't want to press charges. As I said, it's rare for me to be wrong, and sometimes I just give people too much credit. I gave her too much credit for her humanity. not realizing she was an actual demon. Everyone who donated to that GoFundMe without the information. Rashad Ritchie apologizing. That better be retracted. The truth needs to get as much attention, and it rarely does. Y'all did mental somersaults in order to justify this woman, and that she was evil and wrong from the very beginning. So I stand corrected. She's straight evil and tried to steal a bike from a 17-year-old boy. White supremacy always finds a way. She felt entitled.
Escape and float into my